guys. Greetings again. Thank you for checking out the show again. Hello, Coline. I hope everything is all right. How are you doing right now?
Hi, I'm doing good. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and be able to share my experience with you guys.
I'm glad, and we're very happy to have you here tonight. And so, tell us, what are some of the things you've been doing lately? Like, how's your life going? With the pandemic and all of that.
Life is still going. I'm currently in school at the University of Georgia, so I'm trying to juggle that life and have some sort of life on the side without being cautious, of the pandemic and the risks involved, and you have to kind of see how people are taking it around you, but surviving, doing the best we can.
Yeah, I feel it. I think we're all doing that to some degree, I guess, right? Because we're all trying to, have some normal thing going on. However, it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
But tell us, like, what are some of the things you do on the side, right? What's your passion? Like, what are some of the things you like to do?
I personally really like to, I'm starting to run. First of all, that's a new pandemic
Mm.
thing. Physical exercise, I think it's very, like, relieves me of the stress that I have since we stay inside all the time indoors. I think it's just really important to, like, get yourself moving. And I
Definitely.
like, yeah, I don't feel like the gym is too safe at the moment, even if they do take the precautionary measures. So I've just been running and listening to music and just trying to get my creative energy out there and make something with it.
Can I ask you how you motivate yourself to do exercise? Because sometimes, as you said, we were inside it all day. So sometimes it's difficult to have that schedule to organize our day to do exercise. How do you do
That's a
this?
good question because that's something that I've had to deal with throughout the pandemic. At the very beginning, we're all super motivated. We tell ourselves, oh, like, pandemic, I'm going to make it. I'm going to exercise and be healthy mentally, physically. So I'm not going to lie to you. There are days where I don't know how to answer your question. I am not motivated at all. But I try to I have a goal and make it realistic and just pursue it. And I feel like, especially with exercise, you can definitely, like, the adrenaline, the hormones it gives you just makes you do it continuously, if that makes sense. Like, if you do it
Mm.
for a week continuously, it helps you do it for another week and another week. Like, you just have to, I don't know, think of a goal and a very realistic. That's important because we can't expect, like, results like this.
So you put a date and you put like, let's do it for 5 days. And then when you have those 5 days and you have another goal, so little by little, and then you feel your body that is like it needs the exercise. So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. And then,
that's
yeah.
that's a good one. Super, super
Yeah.
duper.
In addition to all of that, like it's funny to me, right? Like we're talking about this right now because late like this week, right? I struggled a lot like with my exercise routine. Like this week I've been super lazy. I've been like, I don't want to do it. But then I'm like, I gotta do it. So it's something very relatable for all of us, I think.
And then if you start your day like that, then the rest of the day is better, no? You feel like
Yes, yes.
you have the control on your hands.
Absolutely.
Super.
And I think it's also really important not to be too hard on yourself. Like, I know I talked about having a goal, but at the same time, like, if you go
Mm.
running and you can only do 15 minutes that day, then that's fine. Just take it easy. As long as if you just keep showing up, then, it's a process, it's happening, and you'll get somewhere, even if you just do 15 instead of 45 or an hour.
Yeah.
You're
Definitely
right.
consistency is the best, in my opinion.
Yes, and I like that part because sometimes we wear white or black,
Mhm.
so we don't have the totally. Sometimes we say no, I don't want it, nothing.
Yeah. And that
So
used to
it's
happen
a
to
little
me.
bit.
Like I was
Mm.
like, okay, if I'm not gonna complete it fully, I'm not gonna do it. Like whatever. But that's such a bad decision to make, in my opinion. Like looking back on it nowadays, it was very bad. But whatever.
Yes, yes,
We go and we learn,
yeah.
I guess.
Yes, and talking about emotional intelligence, that's one of the components, like self-control, how you motivate yourself, how you make a goal, a purpose, and then you just little by little you put those little steps to go there. No, so that's a very good one, just to realize what you want to do first of all, and then how you are going to do that. So super, super.
Yeah, I think it's also really easy to just, like, especially during the pandemic, it's so easy to just stay in bed and not do anything and then pity yourself and go through this cycle of, like, I'm not doing anything, like, my life is not exciting. But if you do put those goals that are achievable every day and it makes you feel good inside, like, you're doing something.
Yeah, super, super. Samuel, you are on. Yeah, there, you got
Yeah,
it.
I was gonna say it's all about that. Like if you don't set goals, like in my life, I think like human beings, we all require some sort of structure. Like lately, again, like I feel like this happens with everybody, right? Like doing stuff at home, like things such as school or work. If you don't keep a routine, right? Like with your exercise, for example, I feel like your productivity goes down a lot. Like definitely because if you don't structure yourself, you're like, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna do it later, or like I'll do it tonight, but then you don't do it because something happens, right? And if you don't push yourself to do it, then nobody's gonna do it, and then you get all this stuff, piled up, and that's something that, like, I think applies to emotional intelligence because I feel that if you have problems, right, and you don't take care of them, then who's gonna do it, right? It's something that just bottles up, and then your life becomes considerably less good, right? So
And Samuel, also that when you have like that time managed and is merging with your self-esteem.
yes.
If you don't love you, you don't know how to control your time. You don't know how to put limits, boundaries to the others. It's with the relationship, but also with the use, how you use the time. So that goes very directly your self-esteem. What do you want for you?
Yeah. In our generation, I would say that like sometimes people seek, right, like young people like myself, I would say that we seek gratification and fulfillment from other things that are not necessarily, being at peace with ourselves. And then, we end up doing things that, are not necessarily good all the time, or we develop bad habit, for example. So that's something important that we got to take care of, right? So
I agree.
So, what else? Tell us, Colin. What else do you like to run? I know that you like other things. I know. Tell us about your other hobbies.
Recently, I've started to sing a little bit. I was lucky enough, my dad paid a few sessions for me with a professional singer one-on-one. So I got to really learn the basics of how to train your voice, how to like maintain it in a healthy manner. And it's just really exciting because it's something that I now put into my daily life and I don't even realize it. Like I just start singing like out of the blue, and then my sister or someone that I live with is like, "What are you doing?" But it's just something that I've come to enjoy, and I really like, I have to make it a goal to practice every day, and it makes me happy as well. So it's like another happy thing I can do every day.
yeah, like another outlet per se.
Exactly, yeah. And it's creativity too, like you can sing, but then you can also record your voice. You can also change your voice with the computer. Like we're so lucky with this generation because there's so many different accessible technological items that we can purchase that aren't super expensive for the very basic things. And like we can do YouTube, we can do pictures and photography for Instagram. Like there are so many creative outlets and so many things are accessible that we're just super lucky.
Mm-hmm. It's not like before, no. So, and then, but what are you studying? Are you?
Yeah, I'm a major. Sorry, I'm an
Uh,
advertising major and a minor in Spanish and theater. So it's like a mix of things that interest me that I don't know how I'm going to connect it in the future, but I just like to be interested in multiple things.
nice. And how do you think you are going to connect that to decide what you're going to do in your life? What do you think do you need?
Honestly, it helped me make multiple plans. My plan A, to be very honest with you, is to try acting as a professional career seriously. And it's taken me a while to get to this point where I can admit it because everybody usually judges people that say that. But definitely acting, I'm going to give myself a year to try that. And then after that, plan B would be something with advertising, maybe a copywriter or something to do with social media, maybe to help for a company. So it definitely helps. And with the Spanish, I can do, Spanish helps in everyday life. With my French speaking as well, I can just find some job that corresponds with all of my skills.
Yeah, I'm
Super,
not
super.
super like knowledgeable and all of that, but I'd say definitely like there's got to be something out there that you can apply. All your languages, for example. I think that's something very good.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Be proud of
What
it.
else, Samuel? Ask her, Samuel. We have a bunch of questions always because we learn a lot in these shows.
Yeah, that's true. Tell us, like, how come you realized you wanted to be an actor or an actress? Sorry.
No, you're good. Actually, female actors say actresses say actors sometimes, so you're totally good. I was gonna say I recently figured that out. I was lucky enough to be an extra on the set of Dynasty, which is a Netflix series, and so I was present in a professional setting. And it just got me so excited the whole day. I was just happy to be there. And being an extra usually is very, it's a little boring because you just stand around. Like you have to be very lucky to be part of the scene, like up close to the camera and like learn more. It's a lot of standing, but I was just so excited the entire day that I realized that, wow, like it doesn't have to be an actress per se, but anything in this business where people work together and they come up with a creative final product, it just like, you know, makes me vibrate. Like that's something that I'm really
Nice.
passionate about. And like I'm lucky to find it, but I have to do like multiple steps to get there. So I'm still figuring everything out, but yeah.
I see. And is it the cinematography, or is it like, being part of the project, or like making the project come to life, in the sense like not a lot of like, the editing and all of that, like the camera work, but rather like being part of the project? Is that, your thing?
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to say it's both because there's so many aspects to the movie industry or the industry in general. Like anybody can find anything. There's like directors, producers, actors. You got the makeup artists. You know, like it's just a bunch of people, and that are typically really fun people to be around. Like from experience. So I just like the mix of everyone and their talents just create this beautiful product, and I think that's just such a cool concept.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool.
Yes. Yes, we have a question here. Is Santiago is asking, is an advertising major related to marketing? I don't know.
Yes. In the advertising major, you are required to take a few marketing classes, but it's not exactly the same because, at least in my school, the advertising major is in the journalism building. It's not in the business setting. So it's more related to journalism and media than it is towards business, if that makes sense. Like public relations, advertising, and journalism, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Got you. Super, super. Go, Samuel. I have a question, but you go first, and
Yeah.
then.
I don't know one. I wanted to ask. So if you wanted to, I guess, like shift that towards like marketing, could you do it? Right? You could potentially if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's what I love about this degree, even though it's very vague and with different skills from different schools. I think that you could just merge everything together, and there's so many possibilities out there. Like I think internships will help me learn towards a specific job, but like you said, I can do marketing. I can, with this journalism school, I can end up with a business corporate job, which I think is kind of cool. Like I'm not limited, the opportunities are endless.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You grow little by little, and you make your own track, not to go
Exactly.
there.
Yes.
I was thinking, Colin, like not just the studies, but like in your life, because I know you, this generation, you have a lot of challenge. You have been in many things, and we have been talking about that in other shows. You were like the shootings in the schools. You were that generation. Now with the COVID, the pandemic, the use of electronics, the drugs, all the things that you have been uh, in this life having, not since you born, and now the depressed and the anxiety is growing now a lot. They are the doctors and the medical people says that it's growing 300% after this last year now. So how do you how what are your biggest challenge, or your, yes, the biggest challenge that you have been as a emotionally, talking about emotional intelligence, emotionally, how have you been in this last months, or your life in general?
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting question because I feel like we've all been affected with it to some degree. Personally speaking, a few years ago, I wasn't captivated by not emotional intelligence, but everything that happens with anxiety disorders. I didn't
Mhm.
think that I would ever be one of those people put into that category, right? But when the pandemic happened, I asked to go see a therapist. And then I realized that, with the help that I was getting, I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder and other disorders as well. And it was for me like a click. Like I didn't realize I would be part of that group. And it's not bad. Like we have to understand that we are living through difficult times. Like everybody's anxiety is valid. Okay. I know that we haven't been through war, but at the same time, just look at your situation and what you're feeling is okay. It's okay to
Mhm.
be not okay, if that makes sense. So I've learned to actually get help from that and work through it. It's always going to be a work in progress. There will be some days where it's going to hit you harder than other days, anxiety or depression or any of those disorders, but as long as you're working through it and using the right tools to help you move past it a little bit and control it, I think that's just been really important in my life since the pandemic happened.
Congratulations. That's because it's a self-knowledge and you realize and you look for help. So that's the first step to start.
Yeah, being aware that, you know, there's something going on that is affecting me, like, right, like putting myself in your shoes, like realizing that I need help, right? That's the gist of it, I would say.
It's really hard, especially with anxiety and depression. Like sometimes it's not very obvious, and especially it's like having a conversation with yourself, because you have to realize, like, is it just me? Is it other people? Because it all depends on your perception. Like it can get very intricate and complicated. And so I've been super lucky to have a therapist to help me work through it, because I know a lot of us don't have that resource right now during this pandemic. So yeah, definitely just working through it. It's not perfect, but like little by little.
And that's why the exercise that you're doing too, because it's therapy. Doing exercise, move your body, take care of the food. Also, it's very important. What kind of food are you eat? No?
Yeah, the nutrition aspect.
Absolutely.
And you guys are an experts, both of you. I know. Samuel, he is like very smart. He helps a lot to my son with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, nutrition is pretty important.
Sorry, you meant the food? That was my question.
Yes.
Cool. Nice.
And tell us, like, what do you say it's hard to admit, right? Like nowadays, because I feel like for a lot of us, right, like, you know, young people, and I don't mean to, like, you know, bash down like other people. I'm saying young people in the sense that, like, I feel like our generation copes too much. Like we try to get distracted too much, and like people from other generations, they're like, okay, no, this is happening. I got to do something about this. But we're like, nah, I can handle it, right? Like we can handle it, right? So I think, yeah, tell us.
No, sorry, continue. Did I cut you?
No. That was that was it.
No, I was just about to say, like you said, it's very hard to figure the symptoms and figure them out, and it's so easy just to stay in your bed and just do absolutely nothing. I know what that feels like, and like you said, the distraction part. I know people around me that like have the depression and anxiety symptoms, and they just, for example, cope with shows like Netflix. Like you would just, whatever free time you had, you would be in front of the screen, and that's how you cope, because your life was too miserable and your perception was very negative, if that makes sense. So like reading or watching a show just made you escape all that, and that's problematic at a certain point because you're not taking care of those issues, and you know it's indefinite because there's so many shows on Netflix. So it's really something to take care of and like to realize, and you have to have a good support system as well, because sometimes it's hard to realize it yourself, but you have friends and family to help you through it.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree. And I want to bring you up for this, Erica. Like, I want to ask you, like, I don't know if you've noticed, but like, you know, there's a lot of like meme culture now, and in a lot of those memes, right? Like, people express like depression and sadness, and we make a joke of it, and like it's, you know, we laugh because we're actually, you know, like we're like, oh wow, this is pretty relatable, but we just laugh it off, right? So, what's your opinion on that, Erica? I want to, you know.
Yes, I have been like watching that thing, and we have 5 primary emotions, okay? So it's sadness, happiness, anger, loved, like you feel love, and scare. So sometimes we don't know how to express that. Sometimes when we are afraid or when we are sad, we don't know how to recognize. We recognize the feeling, but we don't know how to deal with that feeling, because the society, the community is always selling the idea to be happy face and love.
All
Nobody talks about it. I say if the emotions were people, those 3 emotions, anger, sadness, and scare, were bullying, because nobody wants to talk about them. So when you have those emotions, you don't know how to deal with them. So you started avoiding, and the way is like joking about that. It's like, I don't know how to deal with this. So I decide to joke about that. We lost the video with someone. He's coming back. So yes, that's is happening a lot. And that's why it's very important to grow the emotional intelligence, because the first step is to recognize those emotions. But before the emotion is the sensation, how my body is telling me about that emotion. So if we understand, and it's a part of, I have a book, the Strange World of Emotions, El extraño mundo de las emociones, is in English and Spanish, and I did the emotional map. So the idea in the emotional map is the first step is to recognize the five primary emotions, and then to write down how my body is reacting with each of the emotions. I'm like shaking, I'm sweating, my heart is beating. So all emotions. So this is the first. Then what kind of thought or belief, what I'm thinking about when I have that emotion? No, everybody's going to bully me. I don't know how to do. I'm going to kill somebody, or like when you have the anger. And then it's starting the next step is self-regulation. That's why it's very important, the mindfulness meditation, because you have that space when you're thinking, that space to reflect about if it's true or no. Your beliefs are connecting with your sensations, and then you can deal with those emotions. But it's it's a shame because we don't have that train. We don't know about that. And now with the velocity of the communication and the information, we don't know how to deal with the time, to have those, like, it's not too much, it's maybe 5 minutes, 30 seconds to breathe, to stop, to and then to act. We are very impulsive. Well, you guys, this generation is part of the things that we were talking in other shows, no? What you are not persistent when you have to deal with time is like, the frustration is, you have low tolerance to the frustration. So yes, I think that's the way that's why the people is laughing about the emotions, because they don't know how to deal with that. They are avoiding that emotion.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And I mean, like you said, we don't know how to cope with it. I am very grateful for the fact that, at least in my perception, in the recent years, celebrities and public speakers have spoken more and more about these
Mental health. Mhm.
exactly, mental health and how important it is. Like, as a child, I was never taught how important it is. And when you grow up, you have responsibilities and other ways to, you have more responsibilities and challenges. And I wasn't taught how to deal with this. And so you realize, like you said, we need to be informed. We need to figure out how to deal with our emotion and have this conversation with ourselves.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah,
And I
definitely. I
think
wanted
it's
to, yeah.
go, Samuel. Go.
It's just very quick. I wanted to say that I feel like our generation, like I feel like as generations get younger, right? Like new generations start to come, start getting like more pressure, like from society to perform, because the standard just keeps getting higher and higher and higher. So, like for example, school, right? Like I know for a lot of people it might seem like it's not something that's like super bad, right? But like a lot of the times we barely have time to, like do something else besides school. So it's like I feel like a lot of people, instead of setting apart time, right, to like, think about like, themselves and the emotions that they should be dealing with, they're like, no, whatever, I'm just gonna go out with my friends, right? Because it's, I feel better, right, that way, because it's, instant gratification again. So
Mhm. Yes, yes, yes. And I was thinking about this pandemic. The other day I went to another. It was a new clubhouse. It's a new esta red social networking. So they were talking about what what did we have, the good things from 2020. No, because everybody's thinking about talking about the bad things, and they were talking about how what do I learn from 2020, no? And I think one of the good things is that the mental health, we talk more about mental health because we were in a crisis, we were like on the top, and we were looking for help. So now, as you said, Colin, the influencers and the people are like more open to talk about how to prevent those kind of issues, no?
yeah, I feel like, oh, sorry, go.
Oh, I was just about to say that before, I felt like those issues were more put under the rug. I knew
Yep.
people that had them, but you didn't want to talk about them because it was embarrassing to have one, and like people looked at you weird, and the judgment, and it was very, and that's super important when you're young as a child, like to have that to deal with on top of all your mental issues. Yeah, that's all I want to say. Go ahead, Samuel.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I was gonna say pretty much the same thing. That like I feel that before it was something shameful, right? Like if you say that you're depressed, right, or like you're angry for whatever reason, like people would look at you and they would think, "Wow, this kid, he's weird or she's weird." Like what's going
Mhm,
on, in their home, right?
mhm, mhm. And then here, I'm like I'm Latina, no? Like the Latin, we hug and we laugh and we express a lot of emotions. And here we're in Miami. It's like, but when I was living in Canada, no physical contact. It's like, do not touch me, do not talk about. So depending of the culture, also you cannot, you don't know how to express those feelings. Neither recognize them. Mm, Expressing is, is worse, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we see that a lot in countries such as like, the US at times, right? Like Canada, England, like those like I guess like upper like, on the map countries that have like that type of culture that's like, oh, I'm here, but like you stay there, like we do this thing. But I feel like in other parts like Latin America and like parts of like Africa slash Asia and some parts, because Asia is kind of like that too. But like Southern Europe, like we see that, and I feel like people are generally more cheerful, and that's because they interact with people more in that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's because it's something natural for the human being to want to do. So it's like this rejection that we have for
Physical
that
contact.
behavior. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's something that's
Mm-hmm.
very bad for the brain and like the mind,
Mm-hmm.
right, per se. So
Mm-hmm. 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 And you guys, how do, because I know that Coline is, she's from France, and then you moved to USA, and then you're learning Spanish. So it's the multiculturalismo. And you too, Samuel, you're like immigrants, and we have this
yeah,
gap. For me, it's very difficult. I don't have a good English after those years, and sometimes I cannot understand my daughter and my son because there are jokes from here. So how do you deal with that?
Well, personally, I have the same problem because the culture, it's a richness, but it's also sometimes like I forget my French, and that's a little embarrassing because that's where I was born and I feel like I should be French. And same thing with Spanish. I don't understand everything, but I'm able to enter this sort of group. And even the memes, like I know we were talking about memes. I personally am really bad at reading them and relating to a lot of them. It's like I don't even know how to explain it because I'm supposed to be part of that generation, but I feel like there's always going to be a gap and I don't really belong anywhere per se. I'm just a little bit of a mix, a melting pot. Um,
completely understand.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel
Yes,
you.
yes. So it's the identity. Yes, I was talking about that with the parents of Generation Z. That is very difficult for you guys because if you go to our country, you are the American guys, and but here you are the Latin or the Hispanic guys. So it's not. It's like a hybrid, no? It's una cosa rara. Something
Yeah, I think
strange
it's
there. Uh,
yeah. I was gonna say that I think it's like bad and good at the same time because it's bad and like that's not really bad, but it's bad in the sense that you don't feel like you belong like anywhere. But it's also good because I feel that like for me, right, like in my opinion, like my eyes, through my eyes, I see that a lot of people are missing out on like the good things that American culture should have, or like Latin culture should have, or like some parts of Europe culture should have. Like I feel like a lot of people miss out and they just stick to the roots in the sense that they're like, oh no, I'm like this and I'm never gonna change, and they just miss out.
mm,
That's my opinion. So
Yeah, I think it makes us so much more flexible, if that makes sense. Like
hmm
obviously, like you said,
definitely.
there are bad parts, and like I understand that you can't fit in every single box. But like for example, I have a Bosnian roommate, and thanks to her, I'm able to experience like Bosnian music and Bosnian food and culture, and it just like opens the world up because I'm used to just change and just learning about different people, and I don't know, I think it's just really cool.
it's global. You are, and now with
Exactly.
this stuff, it's global. Your adaptation skills are better, so you can flow. No, but at the same time, it's like it's difficult because you can flow, but if you don't have that persistence and that like courage to stay there, you stop this growing. No,
Yeah.
so it's a challenge.
Yeah, I can definitely speak by experience when I say this. I moved from France to the United States at the age of 16. And like that was a big step for me because I was leaving my entire family to join my dad, the one family member in the United States. And so I had to make that step forward, like you said, to not stay in my bubble in France and just to experiment the world and experience what the world has to offer on another continent. And like you said, it makes us flexible and it adds something.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, I think that, like, for me, it's something about, getting all the good things and, like, making a big, like, pot of it, right? Like a big, pile of good, right? That's my opinion.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
about, because I feel like a lot of people that come here, right, or like to other parts of the world in general, when they go, they don't they don't always appreciate, right, that it's, another experience, something different, right, something new, and that's pretty sad in my opinion.
Yes, yes, and I have seen that, no, like dreaming the past or thinking about your past
Yeah,
and stop enjoying your present because
exactly.
you are there. So you are not there, neither here. No, so
Yeah,
it's,
and you feel
and that's it.
disenfranchised,
Uh-huh.
and
Sorry.
therefore you're like, no, no, it's fine. I was going to say that
Mhm.
it's like, it goes back to all of the mental health we were talking about, because then it becomes an issue that most
Mhm.
people don't fix, and it's something that's, unavoidable to some degrees, right, for some, right? So
Mhm. And sometimes do not fix, as I tell my clients, when I work with coaching for teenagers, see, like, do not fix it. Feel weird because we need that weirdness in this life. We need something different. It's a fact that we are in crisis. Everything, sexuality, education, health, political, religion, everything, we have to check everything. So you have to be different to think different, to start opening a new area in this life, no, and I think you have that you're the point of the arrow, no, see, you are, and it's a lot of responsibility for you guys as your generation, as Gen Z.
Yeah, I think we try. That's the best I can say because there's so many, like you said, different directions and different things to fix. But I'm hopeful for our future just because I know many of us do believe in different moral standards and the environment and all the things that we have to fix. I feel like
Environment. Mhm.
most of us are passionate about the future that we want to have.
Mhm. Mhm. And what do you think, guys, are the biggest challenge for your generation?
well, like, in my opinion, the biggest challenge is to stop, like, this division that we have in general, because I feel like nowadays it's either you're red or you're blue, like, that's it, right? You can't be anything else. You can't be in the middle, you can't lean somewhere because you belong to one of the gangs, right? So it's like something
Mm.
very silly, and I feel like a lot of people, like, they don't realize that we have to grow out of that if we want to work together and, like, make things work and, like, have a good place for everybody, right? That's something that I
Mhm.
think our generation is probably, like, you know like, tasked with, so therefore it's kind of responsible, because, like, we're next. However, I think that it's not going to be very easy, but I'm hopeful that it's going to be better, right? Hopefully, right?
Mhm.
That's such a
Mhm.
good point, actually, especially with globalization and how our cultures are merging and like internet and all the resources that we have. We do really have to learn to stop generalizing people to some extent. And I don't want to get too political, but this division that we have, and obviously social media doesn't always help in that case because of the fake news and that whole dilemma. But
Agreed.
yeah, that's such a good point. The division that we have, I really hope that we can go and through it and pass in a more
Mhm.
healthy way.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, yes. And yesterday I have a guest in my Instagram in live, and he's a, ¿cómo se? Ecologista, or the ecologist is an expert
Ecologist.
about the environment, and we were talking about that we forgot that we are part of this universe, and we have to take, and everything is connected, all of us. And he was talking about the humans beings are the only ones that generate garbage. Everything, animals, the nature, they don't do garbage, and I haven't thought about that. Yes, so we have to reflect about everything that we do, talking about garbage, talking about relationships, like being toxic ourselves, how we think. We have to clear ourselves, to take care of our thoughts, the programs, the TV shows that we see, the music that we hear, everything. We have to take care because we need to be, we're part of this and we're connected to another one. The emotions are contagious. If you're laughing, when we started laughing, everybody started, and you're crying, everyone's depressing. So we have to think about that relationship that we have with the universe in general.
Yeah. Well, speaking on that, I'd say that what I've mentioned before is one of the biggest challenges. However, now that you spoke of this, like you shed some light on my mind, and I think that the biggest challenge actually would be probably like dealing with all the nihilism that we have, because people like this happens because people don't care. Like people don't care anymore, and that's something that either we care or the planet, it's eventually gonna disappear, right? Like for better or for worse, right? So
Yeah, and I think it also has to deal with culture and education as
yeah,
well. Like you can compare the United States to France because that's what I guess I know best. And you can definitely tell the different mindset of the population. And even if we in the United States, like there are classes for the environment, like I've taken them in high school, but not everybody gets to take them, and that's a choice that you make, and it's part of the education as well. Like how do you live, or how do you use your water, how many cars do you have, because here we do use more cars than in France because of how big the territory is. Like there's just so many factors, and it affects us all ultimately. Each country has to do their part, and it's just very hard to have a grasp upon it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
yeah,
And
I
that's
say
it's political. At the end is the rules is like the political stuff that they don't ask for that, because France, I think, is one of the top on the environment stuff. It's the things that you do, no. So, but now you say we are very background. Now says vamos para atrás. It's not.
yeah, it's not something that's constantly going forward in all the places.
Yes, it's happy. Tell me, I was thinking about the French culture because I love my one of my best friends is from France. So, and I know about talking about another issue that I think is another challenge for your generation. Yes and no, because I know when I was reading about Generation Z, the description they were talking about that you take care of your food, the nutrition, that many are like pescatarians or vegetarians or those things. So you are very concerned about the food as a generation. But in France, it's a ritual. You respect a lot the time, the food that you are eating, and the how you are eating that food. It's like everybody sitting down, taking time. It's like to be together. So is it true? Because it was my perception, or is it true?
Oh, it's 100% true. Eating in France is a cultural thing. It's a very social thing where it's a time where people sit down. Even if you're at work, you will eat with your coworkers. Whereas in the United States, it's more of grab and go, or, oh, I'll have this protein bar and that's it. And I'll have it while I'm working. But in France, you really do have that time to take a break and just take 30 minutes of your time and just sit down and eat and just take your time as well. Like I know some French dinners can last up to like 4 hours just because you take the time
No.
to start with the entree, and then you've got the main plate, and then the dessert, and then
The
like
cheese at the
exactly, it's so good. But you take the time to enjoy the little things in life. It's not about eating it really fast. It's about talking, having a conversation, even just having a cup of coffee at the local coffee shop non-COVID times. That's just something that we do. And I'm not talking about Starbucks. I'm really talking about meeting a friend every once in a while and having a cup of coffee. It's just something that we do socially.
Mhm, mhm. And how does it relating with the emotions? How do you think it's
I think it helps us take a moment to breathe, because as human beings right now, we're asked to be very productive and do good at our jobs and produce and create and just be proactive all the time. But if you take that moment for you and for other people around you, you can build trust and relationships and just build on that in your support system. Like it's important to know that you
exact?
can talk
Yeah,
to those
yes, you're
people
right.
daily. And
Mhm,
I think that's something that I treasure about French culture that is less
mhm,
thing here
mhm,
in the United States.
mhm, mhm. You're right. It's a good time to do like a supporting time with the people. No? Oy. What about you, Samuel? Tell us about
Well,
your habits and your questions.
I was thinking that, like, right, like hearing, listening to Coline, I was thinking that it's true in the U.S. Like people, like they don't care in that way because they're like, they tend to be more individualistic in the sense, like not in a positive sense, but more in a negative sense, that it's like, yeah, whatever, I'm just gonna get out of work, right? I'm just gonna do my thing, right? I'm gonna eat this bar, as she said, like grab and go. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's something bad, right? It's something bad. So I was thinking that that's probably like a part of the system, or like the systems that we have in place that we should change, right? Like speaking as people that live in the US, if we want to, like keep on, living here and doing things here, like I think that eventually we're gonna have to voice our opinion and say, okay, this is wrong, we shouldn't do this. Why are we doing this, right? We have to do something else because this is not healthy, it's just not helping us. This is actually in fact damaging us. And by that reasoning, you could say that the country is getting worse, or like
Mm-hmm.
the society in the country is getting worse. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I was
Yes,
thinking.
yes.
I was going to say, I think it's really, I agree with you, and I hope that we will be changing in a positive direction. And I think that because the US is such a big mixing pot in terms of cultures and how immigrants, their numbers are rising, with this, maybe that's an opportunity for us to learn from each other. And maybe, I don't know, like more French people can just teach others to take a second and eat, like not necessarily French, but like our cultures will mix at some point and we can learn from each other in a positive manner.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the best course of action that we could take. Hopefully we do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you guys have what do you think you can do to start that? We're doing this Gen Z show, no? That's a fact that we're doing something like to have a platform, a space to talk about these kind of issues, because I think as I know you don't have a lot of these kind of spaces, not to talk about emotions, the way that you think. But what do you think that as you can do to start making a change in this moment?
I think that having a conversation with your peers, like I said, surrounding yourself with good people, but making the effort and the step forward to have those conversations on a daily
Mm-hmm.
basis, normalizing them instead of just pushing your emotions aside and not making it important. I have these conversations often with the people around me, and it just helps me grow, helps them like think. And I think start with your close social circle, and then like it'll
Mm-hmm.
just make it a bigger thing, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're definitely right. I've I've tried to do that. However, I have to admit that like like in the, I guess, like these couple of years, I've been having a hard time, trying to make people understand that some things, obviously I'm not perfect, but I think that some things that I, could bring up are beneficial for all of us. So it's like, if we're in a, friendship relationship, right, like any kind of relationship, and I bring something up, I feel like these past few years I've done the easy thing instead of the hard thing that is the correct thing to do, and I've just pushed some people aside, right? Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, like if you don't want to do it, okay, don't do it, whatever. However, it's something that, like, I'm not actively doing anything to help. Instead of me saying, okay, whatever, I could be like, no, listen, like you should actually listen, please, like you should listen.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So yeah,
right. To do the effort instead, because you have to deal. You have to stay, as we said, to be persistent in the
yeah,
relationships too. Because it is maybe you are telling something and they are going to do a joke, and then I don't want to deal with this by myself. So it's like trying and be persistent to understand. And there is the empathy, that is another component of emotional intelligence, to be compassionate, also to understand the other, like to the active listening, just not talking, just listening, and to be there for the other. And it's beautiful when you realize, when you're opening that, you need that, but also the other person needs the same that you are needing, but you are not communicating, you are not like having this merging is, no. What else? Tell me, reflect with me, vamos, filosofen conmigo, philosophy with me.
I was
What
just
else do you think?
I
Mhm.
was thinking how it connected with what we said earlier about being different. This is the time to do it and start having that conversation. Like be different, start talking about these subjects that are not talked about. And like you said, it'll help both of us at the end of the day. Ultimately, we're gonna be a better person at the end of that conversation. That just reminded me of that.
Yes, and I think after you say that you went to therapy and the way that you learn, that is very important, just to to listen another person that is like opening to talk about that, and then now you're like doing your exercise, having you're dealing with emotions. You guys, me, everybody's like dealing, but it's normal. It's not the end. It's just the starting. It's a new day, and you're learning about yourself, and you're learning how strong you can do, emotionally strong, when you have to deal with this kind of crisis. No, so yes, to share how is your life, what you're doing is is many things. No.
It, yeah, it's definitely a journey, I think, and I'm pretty proud of like the steps it took, because you have to take the steps. It's not some magical formula where you're going to be okay the next day. It's really, really working on yourself. And I didn't think that would be important in the past. I really didn't, until the pandemic hit and then multiple events in my life happened. And you just really have to work through it. And it's not going to be perfect. I can't guarantee that my life right now is amazing, but I think it's so important to have that conversation with yourself and see where you're at, check in with yourself, your emotions, how you're feeling, how's everything.
Pushing yourself, like going out of that bubble.
Definitely.
No.
That's a daily conversation I have with myself. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. What
Yeah, I
else,
think
Samuel?
I was gonna say I think this is something positive, like that brought the pandemic, right? That now, obviously, like some of our lives, could have gotten harder or easier, right? But I think for the vast majority of us, one could say that all this free time has allowed us to really think, right? Like really, have that moment with ourselves, like, and say like, wow, okay, I got to work on this, or wow, I'm not happy, right? Wow, okay, I don't like this. I should work on that. And that's something that's like, to bring the show towards a more positive light towards the end, I would say that's something that we can reflect. And, we always have something to be grateful for. So it's like, a good thing that I saw, right, in this conversation, that we were, mentioning all these things and like all the bad things, or this is one of the good things, because even if it's something bad right now, you can always, as Colleen said, turn it into something better. So that's very important for us to realize, I think.
Mhm. Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, and to understand that you are not by yourself. You are part of a universe, as I say, and everything, the plants, the animals, everything is connected. So you are, if you motivate yourself, you talk with yourself, you are helping others, and then it's like growing. It's like little by little. No, I was thinking when I hear you about the generation that is after you, the alpha generation, and it's one of the questions that we did, someone know, in the other shows, and I would like to know about what what you can recommend to this, the generation that is after you guys.
That's a good question. Because I find myself sometimes it's hard for me to relate to that generation. Like I said, the whole meme thing, I really try. But at least for me right now, I can say that I would recommend to be less in our bubble. Like, for example, less social media, less consuming daily media every day. I don't really know where the future will take us, but as I see right now, a lot of us are stuck to our phones in this bubble
Yes.
about consuming the news, consuming Instagram, consuming YouTube. And that's great. Like, it's part of entertainment and how like we travel in our minds and get entertained, but like you have to also put a limit on that, and I'm not sure everybody's doing that, and that's what makes us, at least me, unhappy if I consume too much. I think I'd rather see it as like consume, I don't know, 20%, and then try to create 80%. Like be the proactive element in it, not just consuming and just like swallowing everything. Do
Mhm.
something that's personal, if that makes sense, and creative.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd say like that goes into like, do not live vicariously, and actually live and do something that you want to do with your life, instead of letting it get away.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah,
To get the
definitely.
control, to get the power, to lead your, not driving the car that is your life. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else, guys? What else do you think, or the recommendations or your suggestions for the other guys from your generation?
Hmm. Well, I'd say that, to all the people watching that are in our generation, don't be afraid to be yourself, and don't be afraid of being different, because nowadays, like, no one cares. Like, no one's gonna judge you if you're different. Like, it's not about this thing anymore. That it's like, if you're slightly different, like, oh my god, a weird kid in school, right? No, like, nowadays everybody is like more accepting of that,
Mhm,
and through that weirdness, right, like weird aspect of like being different, you can actually do good. You should, if you want to.
mhm. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would also really like to add that, at least I know I keep repeating this, but getting help not only is the first step to helping you, but also, like, I would have loved to have a person when I was younger to explain these things to me and to teach, like, to reassure me that everything's going to be okay. Because when you're young, you're very insecure, and your environment just changes you and everything. And especially with all the events that, you go through, I just think that having those people that you can talk to and that are here for you when you need them, and they're like a phone call away. It's not really an excuse in this generation to be like, oh, they're far away in another country. Like, no, my mother in France helps me get through daily events. So just really have those key people that you can talk to about anything, and that will help you go through this together, because it's like a mess, but you can deal with it.
It's, it's not easy. Yes, it's
Yeah.
complicated. Yeah. And what about a recommendation for my generation? That you talk about your mom, like
Uh,
you.
yeah, I would say maybe be understanding. Not that you guys aren't, but I've met some adults that don't take mental health seriously. And I thought that was a generation thing. I'm not really sure, but like, it's hard to explain to them that this is a real issue affecting my daily life and I need to fix it. Like, please help me. Um,
Mhm.
so some of the older generations don't understand that in my experience, and I just want them to just open up a little bit more and just please listen to us when we tell you about something, because it's already hard for us to take that step, but we need some sort of like comfort and opening arms, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes. Like, do not minimize that
Yes,
feeling. No,
absolutely. Hmm.
that is not because I don't feel that the way that you're feeling is not important. It's important. Yes, yes. That's like sometimes we're like, yeah, don't
Exactly.
cry. Go. But you're feeling that you need to cry. So instead of avoiding or like blocking that emotion, is like just talking about that, opening that conversation. Yes,
Absolutely.
because sometimes we are afraid to. Me because I'm a psychologist, but many of the parents like, I don't know what to say. I don't know. I don't know. Our next guest after this show, we are because we're entering to February, we're talking about sexuality and the couples and love and that kind of stuff. And many of the parents are dealing with the sexuality issues. I don't know what to say. She told me that it's a bi or homosexual, and I don't know. I don't know. And so they are scared about those, or that they are that is depressed. I don't know what to do with a depressed guy. So they avoid that. They close that, block that conversation. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Colin. Hello, Samuel. What
I'm
is your recommendation?
I mean, this is a recommendation that I think applies to everybody.
Mhm.
And I think that if you have an issue with, a partner, your son, your daughter, right, like someone in your family, a friend, instead of being afraid of what could happen, you should, go out there and be like, hey, what's going on? Like, we can't talk, right? Like, there shouldn't be, like, it shouldn't be this taboo thing that it's like,
Mhm.
I feel like in our generation, people enclose themselves too much, and they're afraid to, break into that, because they're like, oh wow, how could the other person react? And that is a valid concern. However, I think that if you value the other person and you value the relationship, you should, you know, like, go for the leap of faith and, try, right? Try, because if you don't try, like, nothing's gonna get better.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Super. Super duper, guys. We have 3 minutes. So, someone, how do you want to close this episode with our special guest?
Well, I mean, I can say this has been a really good conversation, and I've actually had a lot of fun. And I want to thank you, Colleen, for being here, for coming, and I want to thank you, Erica, for allowing this again to happen. And to all the viewers at home, thank you so much for watching, and people that are watching YouTube or whatever.
No,
Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you guys so much for letting me have this opportunity because, like you said, we need to have these conversations more. I feel like it's so important for younger generations, for older generations, and like putting it together on this platform is just amazing. So thank you for letting me be a part of that.
No, thank you, Colin. It's for me, it's a pleasure. And you guys, you know me. I'm concerned about all the things, and I always taking care. I try to take care of the mental health, and it's very important. It's like emergency in this society, and I believe in your generation. And for me, it's an honor to Samuel asked me, let's do something. And I was like, oh, a little lazy. And then now it's every 15 days we have this show, and it's a reality. And little by little we're growing. And yes, I hope we can impact many people, many guys and parents of and guys of your age, and have that psychoeducation that I I I want to create. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much, Colleen. And see you in 15 days, no, Samuel?
Yep. 15 days.
Super. Mwah. Thank you to everybody. Besitos, mi reina hermosa. Thank you, Sofia. She's saying thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Sofia, for staying with us. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye, Samuel. See
Take care,
you.
guys.
Bye.